Although it may not feel like it, healthy masculinity is actually rising in the world. Even if you're not experiencing it on dates right now, even if you're not experiencing it in your marriage right now, I promise you it's coming. And today I have a very special guest to come on to talk about this very subject. His name is Shaman Patrick of the Concrete Shaman. Some of you know who he is already. And he is coming on to talk about why he believes, from a shaman's perspective, that masculinity is making a comeback in the world, what women need to know about it, how men can actually come back to their masculinity in the world, and why it's a naturally occurring thing. There's not really a whole lot you need to do about it. It's gonna happen no matter what. Welcome to this channel where we talk about how to manifest what you want in life without all the extra stress, chaos, and drama that most people are accustomed to. If that's something that you are interested in, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we have coming out on this channel. Lately, we've been talking a lot about masculine energy, feminine energy, healthy relationship dynamics, and I've been talking to men like my husband, who I recently interviewed, and also Shaman Patrick about masculinity to help the women who follow this channel and some men better understand the role of masculinity in the world, what healthy masculinity looks like, and what women should be looking for in men, and what they should be absolutely avoiding and keeping away from them. As always, if you like this interview and what Patrick and I are going to be talking about, please give it a like because it will help us get it in front of more women. Both Patrick and I have a mission to help people make more sense of relationships in the world, and you can help us do that by giving it a like. And you will find all the information on Patrick's channel, how to work with him, programs I may have available for those of you who want to go deeper, in the description box below. Now, without further ado, let's get into this very juicy interview. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode where I am interviewing yet another man to teach you about masculine energy. No mansplaining here, just
Mhm.
leadership and mentorship from the horse's mouth. Recently had my husband doing a Q&A, answering a lot of your questions, and now we're here with a new friend and colleague, Shaman Patrick, who is joining us from his spaceship today. So thank you, Patrick, for coming on to talk to the women about what you're seeing in the world, which is that masculinity is rising. I'm sure a lot of them will be very happy to hear that masculinity is rising, because that is certainly not what they are experiencing in their daily lives. So for people who may not know who you are, some of my subscribers do, just very quickly, who are you? How did you get here?
Well, I'm a shaman. Hello, Amanda. So nice to meet you. I work with spirits, I work with people, I help people get sober. And lately, I've been helping men understand that their masculinity is being restored to them in a natural process. Let's get started on this. I'm a gay man, I'm married to another man, and I don't necessarily want to talk or speak for women. I think women can do that for themselves. So my approach is to kind of just let people know that, it's okay to be masculine. Gay men in particular have kind of a issue with this. Like, what is masculine when you're a man who loves other men? And so it's been a really good journey for my husband and myself to really understand that weak men are dangerous men. And I'd like to talk about, our experiences with weak men just to get this started, what kick started us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is really important because whether you're a woman and you are attracted to men, or you're a man and you're
Hmm.
attracted to men, like men are men, gay or not, you're
Yeah,
still
they
dealing with
are.
men.
Yeah.
So what are some of the signs of weak men? Because I think, to be honest, a lot of women in Western culture, and I can say this from my travels with my husband's business, have
Mhm.
kind of been manipulated and duped into a situation where
Mm.
they are ending up with a lot of weak men, and they don't realize that they've been kind of like bamboozled
Yeah.
about masculinity.
Yeah. I never really thought much about weak men. It just never really entered my mind. I mean, I didn't know that there were weak men. I had men in my life who were wealthy and successful, and I also had men in my life who were poor. Um, but something happened to us last year in that somebody who was very close to us had been lying about their sobriety and their drug
Mm,
use. And they also were addicted to pornography. And, you know, I didn't know how bad it was until we heard that this person had been using drugs. Not only that, he was lying about us to other people, to our friends and our family, and we were just kind of we wondered why people were treating us weirdly, you know?
mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not one for gossip. I don't gossip. But I could tell, talking to people, like, they had some weird ideas about me. And I'm like, where are you getting this stuff? And, but eventually it came to a head when it was undeniable and we confronted him about his drug use and his lying and all of that. Um, but it kind of blew up in our face because the damage was already done. Like we literally could not tell the truth to anyone in our friends and family. We were the problem. And
Mm.
this guy, I wouldn't say he got off scot-free because, he lost, like we loved him. He blew up his support system. We would have done anything for him. So when he pulled that shit, I can curse on here, right?
Of course, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So when he pulled that shit, my husband and I realized, oh my God, having a man like this in your life who gossips, who lies, who manipulates, who keeps secrets, who tries to get away with stuff. Not only that, tells people things about you that are not true, and you can't correct those assumptions anymore. You just can't. But the whole purpose of him doing that was so that he could relapse in peace. And a weak man wants what he wants. He doesn't care who he hurts. He doesn't care how many lives he blows up in the process. And so that was our experience with a weak man. And what we did was, okay, we're going to do the opposite. We're not going to we're going to stop with the porn and the oversex and all that kind of stuff, and we're going to do semen retention. That was the very first thing that we did. So that's our experience with weak men. I got other stories too, but I think that's a good one.
Well, discipline is that of the
Mm,
masculine, right? So I
yeah,
know there's a lot of women out here on the internet because, I keep an eye on these pop culture streets.
yeah,
I think it's interesting to see this human movie that we're all
mm,
in and learn
yeah,
things from it. And
yeah.
one thing that gets said online a lot, and a lot of women are being taught this by women on YouTube, is all men cheat. And I'm like,
Mm,
no, they don't.
no, 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 no.
Mature men do not,
They
right?
do not.
Weak men who have not matured into discipline, which is, I think, a key thing of the masculine is discipline. Like women have discipline too, but I think with women and the feminine, it's more about devotion,
Mm,
whereas with
yeah.
men, discipline is like there's a sacrifice kind of involved, and the feminine does it in devotion to something, for
Hmm.
example. But discipline is actually a very healthy masculine trait. So would you say that if a guy is out here trying to bring, other women into the relationship, or the narrative of all men cheat, or that, what would you say to that? Because there are women out here who actually believe that all men cheat.
It's not been my experience that all men cheat. I mean, I've been in monogamous relationships with other people. But let's talk about the discipline aspect being really
Yeah.
easy for masculine men. Um, you I like this analogy. Dogs love to be taken care of. They love to be trained. They love to know who the alpha is. That dogs love this. And men
Mm-hmm.
men are kind of in a similar way. We like schedules. We like discipline. We like to know that this is going to get done and it's going to get done. And we have the ability to do things that even when we don't feel like it. And
Yes.
it's kind of a new thing for me in the past few years where I just do stuff. Like I don't even think about whether I like it or not. It needs to get done. But I
Sacrifice.
could tell
Yeah.
when yeah, but it doesn't even feel like a sacrifice
Yeah.
to me, a masculine man. It's just, oh, this is what I have to do.
It's your duty. That's it.
I, I wouldn't even call it that. I would just say it's natural. It's
Okay.
just natural to take care of things. It doesn't feel like, a burden or a duty. It's just, this is what needs to be done. I don't want to get emotional about it. I don't want to get in my feelings about it. Because if I do, it's probably not going to get done, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, how do men get weak? I know that you have done a lot of work in recovery, obviously a lot of
Mhm.
shadow work. That's your thing, is shadow work. How do we get to a place where we are in society right now, where a lot of women are complaining that it's just a bunch of weak beta men that I'm
Yeah.
dealing with
Yeah.
right now, like, and they're divorcing them left and right.
Mm. Well, I could say something, but it may not be very popular, but we gotta risk not being popular. Um, I think it is women who want to control men. And I don't think it's their fault. I think they feel like they need to control men. And just like a dog that is misbehaving, there is no structure. A man may never have had any structure in his life. Let me put it to you this way. My husband and my fathers were weak.
My
We
husband's father was as well.
Oh my God. And they both had women in their lives to enable them in this weakness, to
Yeah.
cover for them, to pick up the mess for them, my father cheated on my mom all the time and impregnated I don't know how many women. We don't know how many children he has over there. But if I bring this up to any of my family members, they deny that it ever happened. Deny. So that's it's nobody can really know how destructive, damaging, and just full of shit my father was because everybody is enabling him. And guess what? He's dead. And they still enable him even though he's dead. And I think that, if men are allowed to have the perception of strength, if weak men get propped up and they have the illusion of that strength, it's very difficult to penetrate that and help them realize that they're even weak to begin with.
Yeah, because weak men have a lot of ego, is
Yeah,
is what I've noticed, right? And um, yeah, nobody can tell them anything,
yeah,
basically, is what goes on there. Or the other thing that I've noticed is more of like a victimization
mm,
mentality in the
hmm,
weak men, where it's like, I mean, I've told you, I've had some crazy comments coming on this channel from like the red pill guys who are like, I won't even get in an elevator with a fee, spelled Fee,
yeah,
male.
yeah,
Took me a second to realize what they were like. Why are you spelling it that? It took me a minute, but then
mm,
I got it, and I was like, wow, imagine like how troubled, somebody must be to be like, I won't even get in the elevator with the opposite sex.
yeah. I would say pretty wounded.
Yeah.
I've been hurt by women and I had to really work through that. And I had to realize it wasn't all women. Um, we were talking before we started about I don't want women to fall in love with gay guys. So
Yeah. Don't
my
do that.
when I'm working with men, I fully encourage them to explore what turns them on. Make sure you're not gay before you go on more in your life. And if they do discover they have feelings, some straight guys have feelings as well. It doesn't have to be acted on, no big deal. But um, women have fallen in love with me as a gay man, and I didn't know how to interact with that, and they've really hurt me. They really have.
Mm.
Um, so I had to learn how to, navigate that, being wounded by women, and understand that women are not often in control of their emotions sometimes. And I need to not give them mixed signals. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, emotional maturity is something
Mhm,
that and nervous I talk a lot about nervous system regulation on this channel
mhm.
and emotional maturity because I'm like that's something that both men and women need to learn how to do and access.
Yeah.
Otherwise, things get very messy. You're just reacting to everything all around you all the time. Or I oftentimes say, speaking of women being attracted to gay men, that would mean you're
Hmm.
attracted to an unavailable man, which I've done a couple videos on that recently.
Yeah.
And I've said, women need to retrain their brains in a lot of ways to no longer be attracted to not that being attracted to a gay man is bad for you, but if what you're saying is I want committed love from a masculine provider man, but you find
Mhm.
yourself continuously attracted or attracting unavailable men, like your mouth and your nervous system are not on the same page,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
basically what's going on here. And a lot of women need to rework that because then when a stable man shows up, a man who is very masculine and very healthy and his masculine and he's giving to her and he's providing and he's helping her solve problems, her brain goes like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, I've seen women go all the way where they freeze. I've seen women say, oh, he's boring.
Yeah.
That's one that I've heard a lot. Or I've heard women, and these are the ones who've fallen more into like perhaps the feminist narrative that has come about in the last few decades or so. That, for example, if a man is doing a very healthy masculine behavior, which is like helping you solve a problem, he's
Hmm.
mansplaining, for
That,
example, you
yeah.
know? So women need to like rewire all of this
Mm,
in their own minds and also know what you said. Like we need to work on learning how to not suppress our emotions, but not let our emotions run the whole show.
mm. And if I can talk about the incident that really um, gave me a wake up that I need to watch myself around women. A woman came to visit me, and I was just barely 3 months sober in Chicago, and she came to visit me, and she didn't know I was dating anybody. She didn't know anything about that. And so when she came to visit me, she looked at my apartment and she goes, "You need stuff. This is a mess." And I was like, "Oh, that's so nice. A woman's touch. A woman's touch." So she took me and got me new sheets, new bedding, and all this stuff. I didn't realize she was trying to seduce me in some way by buying, like she didn't want to have sex in the bed that I had. She wanted new sheets and she wanted it to look pretty. And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, let's," but I misread those signals. You
Yeah.
see? And when I finally like said, "I'm I'm gay," it broke her heart. Like I rejected her and I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
that I was rejecting her. And it she ended up having to go to therapy. She almost lost her marriage. Like it was such a huge mess. And I had to realize my role in that. I didn't know. I thought women could not fall in love with a gay guy.
Oh,
I
they
thought,
totally can.
right, but I just thought, "Oh, obviously I'm gay."
Yeah.
I
Then they're
mean,
gonna stay away. But it
yeah.
reminds me kind of like I told my husband this after we got married because he didn't understand this about women, and I was like, "Well, you're gonna have a wedding ring on now, just so you know, that's gonna be a magnet for some women."
Mm,
And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Oh no, there's women out here that now suddenly you're the target."
mm,
Because you're married, because they think that because you're married, you're one of the good ones. And there are women out here, but this is what I call the wounded maiden. So I have these archetypes that I've created, and the wounded maiden is the chaotic one, right?
mm,
And she doesn't care, kind of a thing. And she's usually attracted to unavailable men or drama or chaos, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I told him, I'm like, get ready. And what happened, and I'll explain to the women what's going on here. When we announced that we'd been engaged, this was a couple years ago already, all his ex-girlfriends came out of the woodwork.
yeah.
All, and started DMing him on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And I was like, I told you. I
Yeah.
told you, right? But
Yeah.
he knows those are like very chaotic women, and of course, and he showed me, he's like, this is so weird. Like, I haven't talked to these women. And then suddenly they're like randomly messaging me, and I'm like, it's because they just found out you got engaged. Now you're hot.
Yeah.
And there are women out there who think like that. But again, these are not healthy women. These are women who
Mm,
need to work on themselves. And to the women who might be experiencing this, like you had a similar situation happen in your relationship, know that they're not really responding to your man, they're responding to you and your energy as
mm.
another woman.
I didn't know that.
Because the reason his value went up in their eyes is
Mm,
because he got with you.
okay.
Yeah, so a lot of the women are responding to the
Mm.
other woman. But yeah, no, some women get off on that for
Home
sure. But
home
those are not
wrecking,
healthy women.
home wreckers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Merrick and I got together, Merrick was hiding his gayness and he
Mm-hmm.
was dating women, which is why I want women to know. Like, I want men to know if they're gay or not, because you can really break some women's hearts.
Mm-hmm.
You could break your heart as well. But so Merrick was his suppressing his gayness, but he came alive around me. But anyway, there were some women who were interested in him. And when we got together, those women were pissed. They were upset. They felt cheated. They felt less than. They thought I was brainwashing him, that I was manipulating him, that I had tricked him into being with me. And
Mm-hmm.
projection, right?
Yeah.
Projection. But but it getting with my husband was like the first time that I didn't post it on social media.
Mm.
We just kind of kept it to ourselves. That's a very masculine thing to do, just keeping things to yourself. But the women in my life were very upset that I did not share that I
Mm.
was in a relationship
Yeah.
that I
Yeah,
didn't tell them about.
I think as we both had public businesses at the time, like people just
Hmm.
knew. Otherwise, if it wasn't for the work that we do and being so public facing, like why would anybody need to know? But this actually brings me up an interesting point because one of the things I tell women that they need to learn when it comes to attracting men, and then we'll get into the rise of masculinity because I'm sure they're like, oh, please tell me there's good news, right?
Okay.
But one of the things I tell women is like, you have to learn to be mysterious, and there's a lot of confusion around that in terms of how
Hmm.
to be mysterious as a woman because that mystery keeps a masculine man engaged and in pursuit. Right? Well, here's a way to not be mysterious, which I see a lot of women making this mistake all over social media right now, right? Which is going overboard with the oversharing on social media about all
Mm.
your drama.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do it.
Like, go
Don't do
talk to
it.
a shaman, go talk to a therapist,
Yeah.
get a journal, do something. But I do see this trend happening right now on social media, on TikTok. I've seen it on Facebook, here on YouTube, where they're by women, where there's this constant oversharing of what is going on in their lives. And I'm like, number one, mystery killed, right?
Yeah.
And number two, you're giving predators a playbook.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I'll say this, if you're on Facebook, you have a list of your friends, your family, um, and the woman that I had that issue with, she went down my Facebook friends list and told everybody that I had emotionally abused her.
Hmm.
And some of them, most of my friends were like, who is this woman? But some people that I thought would know better were like, what'd you do to her, Patrick? I'm like, nothing.
Yeah,
I rejected her. But it's a bad idea to have a publicly available list of all your connections and all. I'm on social media. Um, I am not connected to people that I know personally online. I just don't think it's a good idea.
yeah.
That's for
So
me.
yeah, let's get into this masculinity rising, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the women on this channel, like all these crazy women that are out there, they do
Hmm.
exist, right? And I want to acknowledge that because there are men who have had horrible experiences with unhealthy women. It just is what
Mm.
it is. And then on top of that, there are women out here, which is more the category of women who come to this channel who are just confused, right?
Yeah.
They just don't know what's up from down anymore. They don't know what's left from right. They don't know
Yeah.
what's masculine, what's feminine, what's healthy, what's not healthy. There's just a lot of confusion out here. So what is it that you're picking up on that the masculine is actually rising? Because the number one complaint I will get from women on this channel is that they can't find any masculine men. They're like, and I'm like, they're everywhere, right?
They are.
They're
They
everywhere. There's good masculine men everywhere. Of course, usually women have to do work on recognizing them and how to communicate
mm,
with them. But that's the number one complaint I get on this channel. I'm so feminine. I'm so this. I'm exquisite. I do all the inner work. I do all the stuff. I've done the therapy. And I keep attracting not masculine men.
mm. Well, first of all, law of attraction states that if you notice the absence of something, it'll always be an absence. So, first of all, I would like to tell the ladies out there, if you're looking for masculine men, stop saying, "Where are the masculine men?"
Correct.
Just just drop it. Just drop it. This is what we say, knock it off. Just drop it. And because if you're looking for the absence of something. It's the same thing for people with money. If you're saying I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, you're going to be broke. And if you
Mm.
so you can lie to yourself. I mean, that works too. You can say, I am experiencing so many masculine men, and you can actually manifest masculine men in your life just by not noticing the absence of them. So I just wanted to say that right off the bat. So, but I understand where they're coming from. Where are they? Where are they? So when we started semen retention, uh, my friend was in the hospital, my husband, we were all going through emotional stuff. And I said, I'm going to do this semen retention thing. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see how it works. And I started it, and then my friend and then my husband were like, let's all do it together. So we did it together, and we each reached 100 days without ejaculating. So, what this did was it completely reset and purged all of our weak, feminized behaviors just by doing that. And we noticed that our emotions and our reactions sort of started to organize themselves. It was like a self organizing spiritual principle. And we were able to talk with other men who were doing this process. They reported similar results, but they were interested in what two men living together when in this process, what that would look like what research and experiments and experience could we have without having a feminine uh, balancing in our life. And so most of the men who are on semen retention are doing it to get a woman, to become more magnetic for women, and they do not allow or really allow for sexuality like gay or bi or anything other than straight. They are doing semen retention for the purposes of mating and having children. And so my husband and I approach this as masculine, like we're gay, we're masculine. What like we don't have a voice in this community. We don't belong in this community, but we have a lot to offer and a lot to share about noticing how like we're living together. We're sexually attracted to each other. How are we doing this? How are our masculine containers and fields bumping up? But we tapped into something, and this is where the natural part of it comes up. It's like the hundredth monkey uh, theory. Like when one man restores his masculinity, it restores for all men, and it starts off this chain reaction. So I'm seeing men in our community, even like the people that we see, the people in our recovery group, they're they're starting to ask questions about what we're doing. A guy came up to us. He's having this drama with his girl, and he said, "What do I do? What do I do?" And I said, "Well, you gotta you gotta man up. You gotta be masculine. You're acting like a woman." And he goes, "You're right. I'm emotional. And I don't mean anything by that, ladies, when I said that, but sometimes
The
when
masculine is just stoic. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
We don't feel safe around emotional men. That's the reality.
yeah. But he was very emotional. And I said, "You're acting like a woman." And he was like, "You are right. I am out of control. I'm emotional. And what do I do?" And, we told him, look up semen retention and start that process. But I found all you have to do is bring it up with a man. All you have to do is just, I mean, it kind of became derogatory to tell men that they were acting like women. But when I was a young man, that was like normal to be told you were acting like a woman. It wasn't derogatory. It was a way to hold yourself accountable
Well,
and
men are supposed to call each other out.
yeah.
And a lot of women don't understand that. In terms of there's a great book called The Male Brain. I will leave it. If any of you have purchased any of our programs, you can find it in the extra resources section, the link, but I'll leave it below. But one thing that's really interesting about men, and that's very different in how it's, if you look at little boys, for example, it's very different how a man relates to a little boy versus a little girl. With a little girl, she's like the princess, she's the like she needs to be taken care of and protected and this sweet, beautiful, vulnerable magnetic thing that makes him smile and connects him to his heart. But with little boys, it's different. With little boys, the way that they get developed, you want to know what it is? It's a little more roughhousing. It's a
Mm,
little more holding them accountable. It's a
mm,
little more almost teasing in a way. And all of that, and we know this, there's been research and tons of studies done on this, is to build up a man's character. So I
mm,
think that goes back to what we're seeing, especially in the Western world. My husband and I were just talking about this this morning, where, in countries like the United States, I know Western Europe's also having an issue with this. I've seen it in the comments. Australia, Canada, people have been commenting, you have more broken homes than ever before, and you're getting a lot of men who are just not having that part of their development happening because they're being raised by single moms
yeah.
a lot of the time. But it's
Mm,
it's interesting that you bring that up. And then when they're adults, right? And the idea of all of that, when a little boy gets that from his father, the idea is the man needs to go out into the world and he's going to get punched in the face.
yeah.
And he needs to be able to take it and get back up and go get punched again if he needs to. So that's why that's so important in the development of the little boys. But that's not happening in a lot of places in the Western world right now. And obviously, that's having an effect on, when men actually mature.
Yeah, I mean, and let's talk about, the initiation. I talk about this a lot with people, is that we don't have the initiation that they have in other cultures where they take
No.
men from boyhood to manhood.
And I've told
And
women, do not retire your husband and put him in the home because in
yeah,
other cultures and all throughout history, men have had rites of passage. And what's going on right now is in the modern Western world, they're gone. Maybe you
mm,
get it a little bit in religion, right? But for the most
mm,
part, it's gone. Men do not have those rites of passage like they used to. And also, men were going out and hunting and at war and protecting and providing for everybody. Well, the only place where he gets challenged right now is work
or in World of Warcraft or video
or
games.
or video games,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, and there's a lot of women out here who'll be like, I can do what he can do. I'm going to make all the money. I'm going to be the boss queen CEO. I'm going to retire my husband. He's going to take care of
hmm
the kids. Let me tell you, after coaching women for 15 years in businesses, how that does not work out.
mm,
And the
yeah,
reason why is because men need challenge. And a lot of those rites of passage, and I'd love to hear, it was to build up the men for
mm,
challenge. Their psychology is based on overcoming challenge. And when you
mm,
take that away in a society, then of course you're going to have issues, but don't take away the one thing he's got where he still
yeah.
gets it.
Well, let me say, my father was an alcoholic. Merrick's father was an alcoholic. And you were allowed to beat in my family, the men were allowed to beat their children, cheat, lie, ruin. But if they ever sought help for their alcoholism, if they ever went to AA or anything like that, they would be ejected. It was considered shameful to go to get
Get
treatment
help.
for your alcoholism. And even the women um enabling this, they thought that if they had married an alcoholic, they just couldn't take it. Oh my, I couldn't bring myself to know that I married an alcoholic.
Or
Well,
sometimes they marry them thinking they can change
yeah.
them because in my husband's family, his father was
hmm
also an alcoholic, his mother also an addict. But
mm
she thought she could change
mm But
my
here, I got a
husband's father.
secret. I have a
Yeah.
secret for you all. So if you could understand that the act of getting sober is that initiation into manhood. And if there is an alcoholic man in your life, if you love him or happen to be married to him, encourage him to go to a 12-step meeting, encourage him to go to AA, encourage him because the 12 steps dismantle that boyhood ego. And when he gets to that 12th step, he steps up into adulthood. You grow up in recovery. And so if women are afraid that their husbands would be known as an alcoholic, well, guess what? You're only screwing yourself. Just it's best to just let your husband grow up and deal with all the uncomfortable feelings. But getting sober is that initiation. It's very shamanic, very spiritual. When I started getting into 12 steps, I noticed when I started working in a rehab, I was like, all these guys in here, they're like little shamans in training. because to be addicted to a substance means that you're craving spirituality, you're craving maturity, you're craving, I would say if you're a man, you're craving masculinity and you're not getting it. But when you work a program, and I'm telling people it's profound to watch. I have watched men you would think that they would never change. You would think they would never recover. And they won't unless they it can admit defeat and go ahead and go through that initiatory process.
Being a man,
Mm.
right? What do you think women, especially modern women, Western culture, get wrong in their understanding of men and masculinity?
Oh, that you can just slap on feminine behaviors and it'll make it okay.
Yep.
You know, that if I'm silent, it's not because I'm suppressing my emotions. It is because I don't have anything to say. The more I have my masculinity restored, I find myself being very silent.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, like, we'll just not talk anymore. It doesn't mean that we don't have anything to talk about. It's just if there's nothing to say, we won't have anything to say. And I when I was doing research for this book, I came across this book by Bell Hooks. Do you know that author?
Mm-mm.
So she's from my hometown here in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and they love her around here. But she has this weird book called, I can't remember the name of it, but it's about masculinity. And I'm always curious about when women want to write about masculinity. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, well, I think a lot. Well, I tell women, I'm like, the way that I got good at understanding these things, yes, I learned from women and now I talk to a
yeah,
lot of women. But this
yeah,
is one of the reasons why I had my husband on the channel, why I've had you on the channel. Honestly, was just getting curious and asking the men how they
yeah,
saw things rather than vilifying them or demonizing them or whatever
yeah.
society is having you do.
Well, in her book, she says that the patriarchy taught men to repress their emotions, and that's why everything is so screwed up. And I was like, honey, that's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. The patriarchy doesn't teach men to suppress their emotions. And this is what I feel that has happened. Um, I think that women may expect men to act like them. They may
Yeah,
have been told
I
that
agree.
that because if I'm I mean, I just don't care about a lot of things that I used to care about. I'm not interested in fashion as much as I used to be. I'm not, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but as my masculinity is restored, that I mean what I say what I mean, I think when I speak, and I'm not as emotional as I used to be. And sometimes that is misunderstood for me not caring. And I've had to tell people, I'm not going to get hysterical with you. We both can't be hysterical. So I'm going to just remain calm. It doesn't mean that I don't care or I'm not compassionate. But if both of us are hysterical, that's a nightmare, you
It's a
know?
nightmare. And a
Yeah,
woman would not feel safe around a hysterical man
no. But I do
if she's
think
being
that
honest with herself.
yeah, and I know that women would approach things in a different way than a man, just like this mansplaining. I don't necessarily think men need to explain things to women. I have this rule. If it takes me, well, this is a podcast, so I'm going to break the rule. But if it takes me longer than a sentence to explain something, I probably don't need to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for me as a man,
Mm-hmm.
in dealing with weak men, trying to explain to them stuff. And I'm like, this text message is too long. I can't talk to a weak man. It's just
Yeah.
impossible. So if I can't explain it in a sentence, I just don't do it. I also don't text that much anymore.
Yeah. What are some signs of a weak man? Like if you had to put it in a list so that the women are very clear, like, hey,
Mm,
be mindful. And again, the difference between a weak man and a man who may just be confused about,
yeah.
polarity and masculinity, because everybody out here is confused right now.
Alcoholic addict, any addiction, porn addiction, um, overweight. I mean, that goes without saying, not like a cute little belly or anything like that, but like somebody who's to the point where it causes poor health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those are signs of men that cannot control their urges or their desires. Porn addiction, sex addiction, just a man that just that's a weakness because I've discovered that a masculine man doesn't need all that much. Like
No, he
we
doesn't. They're
we
quite
don't
simple.
need, yeah, very simple. Feed me, maybe blow me. You know, what keep his belly full and his balls drained? No, I'm kidding. But men are very simple. And the more masculine I become, I find needing less, even eating less. Like I don't eat as much as I used to because I'm not burning up so much energy on being scattered, unfocused, or any of that stuff.
Hmm.
And so go ahead.
Where do you think there's a lot of confusion? Because I have my theories on this, but where do you think there's a lot of confusion between the two, right? Because women will hear this and they'll be like, "Well, I'm still going out on dates and I'm still getting
Mhm.
asked, what do I bring to the table?" Right? Or I'm still,
Right.
or they're still ghosting me, or I still can't get him to commit, or I still can't, and obviously, girl, common denominator is you. Okay, let's be
Yeah.
real in terms of
Yeah.
what's going on here. But what do you think is causing a lot of this confusion among the sexes? I'll give you the perfect example, right?
Mhm.
Especially in spiritual spaces. For example, like a lot of both of our subscribers found us because of the Aubrey Marcus craziness
Yeah.
that was going on. And then the way he's talking about masculinity and his wife is like, he's so masculine because he set me up with another man. And I'm like,
Mm.
girl,
Mm.
no. That
Yeah.
a masculine man would never do that. They're territorial. Like
Mm-mm.
so where do you think this all gets conflated and messed up, especially in like these spiritual spaces where you see a lot of this weird. I think I heard you say this and I agree, which is like men stop trying to get in touch with your feminine energy. I don't know if it was you
Yeah.
or somebody else, but I was like, "Yes, please stop," because it's feminizing men. Like you don't need that much of it as a man. And women, okay, fine. We need to, be a little bit more flexible because we're managing households and all that kind of stuff. I get it.
Yeah.
But like men don't need that much feminine energy.
Mm-mm.
They
Man,
get it from you, not within themselves.
right. And when I first started exploring this, we were doing live streams. Most of my audience is women. I've lost a lot of my audience since I started talking about this stuff, because they got very offended when I said men don't have a feminine side. And I genuinely, I said, I don't know if men have a feminine side. And so I did some research, and one of my followers, who is a woman, she did her own research, and we were like, yeah, men don't have a feminine side. I mean, they have feminine emotions and things that are masculine versions of those things, but I don't have a feminine side. I mean, I might have some feminine energies that come floating through me every now and then when it's necessary, but I'm not feminine really at all. I might have a little feminized voice at times, but the myth of the feminine side, I think, um, is a way to keep men weak. You asked me earlier, like what makes men weak. I think it's a lot of delusion. Like you said, people are confused. I've worked with men who don't know how handsome they are. And they don't know how women are seducing them. And I've had to tell people, like, you're a hot guy. And they don't understand that women are going to play it cool. Uh, in particular, I work with guys in recovery. You're not supposed to be dating anybody for the first year. And so I've had guys tell me, yeah, I'm hanging out with this girl. And I'm like, okay, uh, are you sure about that? And like, oh, it's not sexual. She doesn't want anything. She just wants to hang out. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Because you're really handsome, and I know women like handsome men, so she might be trying to seduce you. And so, men not knowing women and women not knowing men, in that situation, it could cause them both to relapse, like a
A lot
sober
of
man and a
damage.
sober. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like men who don't know they're handsome, women who don't know they're attractive. Uh, here's what I think would be just good. If a woman is having trouble with finding men, masculine men, maybe just take a year off and really find yourself and know who you are. Get off of all those hookup apps, get off social media, and just, I don't know, just be yourself. And I know that might be unpopular, kind of like how semen retention is unpopular for men as well. But at some point you have to decide, what do you want out of life? And are you willing to sacrifice to get it? You know, I mean, I know women who are not on social media, and I know women who are on social media. The women who are on social media seem very dissatisfied and unfocused.
Hmm. Distracted,
Yeah,
easily influenced.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's programming. That,
Yeah.
social media programs you into what they want you to feel instead of what you want.
Yeah.
News, television, um, and maybe women might want to find some different things to focus on. Like, I know that I'm a shaman, and I approach life as a shaman. And shamans are all about doing the uncomfortable thing, getting out of the uncomfort zone, because we died, came back, been to hell, we've been through hell. So we're fine with a little bit of temperature being raised. But for women, maybe stop looking, stop trying, maybe just give up, maybe surrender to what's happening.
Surrender. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the big one. That's the most feminine thing a woman can do is actually surrender.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I think it's important to mention God,
Yes.
and that God might be preparing you for something as well. I decided this might be beneficial for your audience, honey. It's okay if I call you honey, right?
Yeah. I don't have an
Some
issue.
women don't like that, sweetie or whatever.
That's a cultural thing I noticed. I didn't
Mm,
realize growing up that it was cultural because being Latina, like it's just normal for a guy to be like mi amor, reina, whatever.
hmm.
Women say that to other women all the
Yeah.
time in like Latin culture. I didn't realize it was such a big deal to
Mm,
Western women and that they found it insulting because I also think in the West everybody over sexualizes everything. I've
yeah.
noticed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just because a guy says that doesn't mean he wants to sleep with you. Calm down. Like, and
Yeah.
so I don't have an issue with it, but it's funny that you bring that up because I know women do have an issue with it, and
Hmm.
I could never understand why, and I realized it was a cultural thing because in Latin America, like, it's just a term of endearment. It's not
Mm,
like it's
yeah.
not anything other than that, you know?
Well, but I'll call people honey and sweetie, and I'll say I don't mean anything by it, but I'm a 53-year-old Southern man. We're gonna call you sweetie and honey.
Yeah, it's
It
also a
doesn't mean
southern
anything.
thing too. It's
Yeah.
not, but yeah, I will get a lot of women, for example, that they will get so offended by things like that. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because I'm not property. And I'm like, girl, let me tell you, one of the sexiest things is being owned by a man.
But let's start there. How about not getting offended anymore? How about not getting outraged? How about not reading into things, not assuming things? Look at the sunlight coming in, making my beard all white. So, but here's how do you want to know how I met my husband? What happened?
I want to know. Tell me.
And I'm not going to tell a whole huge long story, but essentially I was walking down the street in Chicago. The boyfriend I'd had before, he ended his own life. He was a heroin addict. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna be single forever. I don't want to be with anybody. I am done, done, done. And I meant it. I meant it. I was out of the dating game. I said, I'm gonna die alone. I don't want anybody anymore. I don't want this heartbreak. I don't want it. I'm done. Within moments, I met my husband,
Yeah.
my future husband.
I had to go through a big ego death, right? Where I surrendered, and I've
Mm,
talked about this big S surrender to God, right?
mm,
Followed the guidance in 4 months, met my husband.
mm.
Before
Yeah.
that, everything was just like ego, personality, shield, protection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Surrender. I mean, if God will show up for you, your spirit guides will show up for you. But I think sometimes we can get in the way of what God and the spirits in the universe is trying to deliver to us.
Or
I
we
think
don't
we,
want to listen.
yeah. I mean, but if I were a woman looking, and I'm not a woman, so I can't know for certain, but if I were a woman, I would give up. I would surrender. I would let that man find me. I would let that, because I know it happens. It happened to me. And I know it sounds like bullshit, but because when people told me just give up, just surrender, I was like, oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I would also add in detaching, right? Because a lot
Mm,
of the women are, buying up our programs and trainings to understand men. So I know for me, something was really helpful was detaching from any sort of outcome whatsoever. So in that sense, surrendering, trying to find the guy, for
yeah,
example, and instead getting curious about men and what I was learning, but like totally detached in terms of like what happens here. Like I'm a little social scientist with my little glasses and my notepad and that's it. There's no
yeah.
attachment to outcome here. I'm just curious and I'm learning.
That is great.
Yeah.
Because it's like that with anything. We've written a book about the ego, and wrestling with the ego doesn't work, but we found like knowing all the different machinations of ego. You don't even have to work on stuff. You don't even have to work that hard when you get curious about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the book that we're working on now about restoration of masculinity, just the act of like me being curious about, you know, how it's working and doing research and writing it out and developing even rituals and things like that, it changed everything in our house. And I think that, if men read this book or get involved in the content that we're going to make around it, just getting curious about it, that's what I'm talking about, the natural restoration of it. Because many men don't know that being in their emotions is not what men do. They don't know that we are we're call, a masculine man doesn't have to manipulate because he's a man of action. He doesn't complain because he goes after what he wants. A masculine man has no reason to complain, because if he can't make something happen, it doesn't really matter. Do you know?
Yeah. So final question, because I heard you say this and I'd like you to explain this to the audience because I think there's a little bit of confusion. And I agree totally 100% when you said this, which is you saying, relationships are not that complicated. They're actually quite simple.
Mm,
Um, but I feel like because of people's experiences or what they're like, what do you mean they're not? And I agree with you. I mean, being with my husband's easy, you
yeah,
know, or the way my husband and I came together was easy. There's no drama. It's very calm, but a lot of people would find that boring.
yeah,
And I'm like, well, healthy relationships are quite boring because you're not on an emotional high
mm.
all the time. So what do you mean by relationships are easy? Because I know that there's probably women watching this who are like, what do you mean they're easy? What are you talking about? I wouldn't have ended up on this channel if they were easy.
Well, let's put it this way. Both of my husband and I were sober, and we live our life by the 12 steps. And we're solution focused. Um, but when his brother and his father were involved in our life, there was lots of lying, lots of misdirection. Like his father lies constantly and keeps secrets and all of that. And our life got so complicated because there were secrets. We weren't supposed to tell this family member this. Um, and then eventually, I had to quit my job. We got into some financial trouble. And so Merrick asked his dad for help, like you would ask a family member. But his father basically said, well, you guys are on your own. You know, you got yourself into this mess and you can get yourself out of it, which is true. But we were kind of like, but we're in this mess because our life has been so messy and complicated. So we've spent the past couple years kind of restoring our health, wellness, and financial status. Because when you have weak men in your life, when you have those people who just need things to be complicated, just to be
I'll
complicated.
say it again. My husband and I
Yeah,
were just having this conversation this morning because again, I've been coaching women for 15 years. I used to do a lot more business, finance. That's where I started in my
yeah,
career. And I noticed that I'm like, people love to make things complicated. They
mm,
love to make things harder than they actually are. Making money, not that hard.
yeah,
Provide value out into the world, be consistent, money comes, right?
yeah,
Relationships, not that complicated. Most things in life are really not that complicated, but people
Mm.
love to make them complicated.
Well, I was encouraged, like my and I'll talk about this because the weak men that cause the most problems in our life are our fathers. But my father-in-law said that I was lazy and I didn't want to work when I was at home doing YouTube. Like I love doing YouTube. I love working from home, but he pressured me so much. Like every time I was around them, they were like, "Well, Patrick doesn't like to work. He thinks he should be able to sit at home all day." And I'm like, "But that's not exactly what I'm doing."
Right.
And so I tried to please them. I went and got a full-time job. I went and did all these things, and it was never enough. It just made my life more complicated. It was never, ever enough. And here's what I've learned when you're dealing with weak men. They don't want things to be peaceful. They don't want things to be simple. They don't want that. And if you try to peacemake and make things simple, that's not the end goal.
Dramatic
Confusion,
women as well, wounded women as well. A hundred
confusion,
percent.
control, manipulation, all that stuff.
Yep.
So to sum up, relationships are not complicated. They're very simple. We get up at the same time every day. We eat kind of the same foods every day. I cook, he goes to work. And from that simplicity comes a really beautiful peace and presence. And yes, but for masculine men, it's not boring. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And
just,
for feminine women, it's also not boring because we
yeah.
don't want drama and chaos.
Oh, I don't like
And all of that.
drama.
Yeah, and you said something important earlier, which was God. Recently, I interviewed my husband for the channel, and he talked about that. He was like, we're not like religious in this household. Like, we've been trained in shamanism and holistic healing and all that kind of stuff. We don't like necessarily do it for work, but obviously it, influences a lot of what we do on social media, and we facilitate meditation classes, which, by the way, ladies, I'm seeing more men than ever in those meditation classes. And one thing that my husband said was, well, there needs to be something bigger than just the two of you, right? Like, and call it God, right?
Yeah.
But there needs to be, my mom put it this way, and my husband quoted her, God first, right? Then the marriage, kind of a thing. Like there needs to be something bigger, right? That the
Mm.
two of you, I don't know if he didn't use the word answer to, but that's the word that's coming to my mind right now. Otherwise, I mean, you guys are never ever going to get on the same page about pretty much anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we go, I would like to share. I did write an ebook, a free ebook for women and anybody who is interested in the natural restoration of masculinity. And I'll give you a link for it, and it's completely free. The main book that we're working on is not for women. I don't think women would be interested in it. We get kind of graphic about sexuality and stuff like that, and locker room talk, and I don't think women would be interested in that. But I did make this little short book that explains the process and it's for women as well. So you might enjoy that or your audience might enjoy that.
Oh, I'm going to eat it up for sure. I'm
Yeah.
constantly trying to learn.
And for women just being curious about masculinity, you're gonna manifest a masculine man before you know it.
100%, right?
Yeah.
Just be curious. That's always my number one rule in life. Just
Yeah.
be curious.
Amazing.
Instead of judging everything, just be curious
Yeah.
about it, and you're going to find that your life is a lot less dramatic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
Oh.
Patrick, for coming today and giving the women an interesting perspective, as a man, as a shaman. I hope you guys found some comfort in this, that there are masculine men out here, there
Mm.
are men out here doing the work. I see more and more stepping up all the time
Yeah.
you know and I wouldn't be surprised, and I think what women need to learn, which I heard you say, and I think most of the women in my audience understand this but perhaps don't know how to say it, is the fact
Hmm.
that when men rise up in their masculinity, then women will be able to rest in their
Mm.
femininity, and that
Yeah.
that's a good thing, and it's a symbiotic relationship. It's not
Yes.
necessarily about equality, as in we're the same, right? It's more about the collaboration.
And I would like to say this, when my husband is weak, I work, I overwork. I feel women. If my husband is more masculine than me, he gets exhausted. So, it's an ongoing thing restoring masculinity and balancing all of that. And I really hope women and men alike enjoy the journey. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun once you really start to understand it. I have a theory, and we'll end it here. I'm not sure how this would work in a same-sex relationship, but I have noticed this in straight relationships or opposite-sex relationships, which is the fact that when you have a masculine man and and a feminine woman, and they get together, they manifest like crazy.
Hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, literally in the form of babies,
Yeah.
right? But also businesses, money, opportunities. It's absolutely insane. And I'm like, is this a life hack?
Can I tell you why that is? Because
Why?
you're both living in truth and the universe loves truth and the universe will bend over backwards to give you it's easier for the universe to give you things that are true.
Yeah, I feel like things are like in a right order, and because things are in a right order, or like you said, truth, then
Yeah.
suddenly it's like boom, 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 and you just start manifesting in
Yeah.
every area of your life. And I was like, I think I may have found a life hack. It does it work the same in same-sex relationships, or because we have
We're
gotten
work
questions about
Yeah.
that in
Well,
the
well,
comments.
well, for same-sex relationships, it has a lot to do with that masculine container and that
Mm-hmm.
masculine field. And one of you is going to have to be not as masculine at any given time. We're still experimenting on this because if my masculine container is really strong, he finds that he becomes more emotional. He becomes more
Mm.
he becomes more feminine. And but I'm challenging myself. I said, well, if you're becoming emotional, it means that my masculine container is still leaking somewhere. So, but
Mm.
there's more research that we're doing, and when our book comes out, all of that stuff will be in there.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know because we've gotten a lot of questions about like how this all works in same-sex relationships. And I was like, well, A, I'm not in a same-sex relationship. And then I noticed, I'm like, wow, there aren't really that many people out here talking to same-sex couples about relationships, are there? And if they exist, maybe I just don't know because I'm not looking for it.
They do. It's
They
like
do?
it's gay clones, all the gays that look alike. And it's I there is for us, we're out of the gay community. We're into
Mm-hmm.
the community. Like we don't delineate ourselves. We're part of this community. But a lot of that stuff is geared towards the gay community and show tunes and hey girl and you know, do you use anal beads and all that stuff and
Mm.
so there isn't anybody really talking about just relationships between masculine men. And maybe my husband and I might, be able to do that.
Yeah, maybe you should, because I've
Yeah.
definitely gotten questions from gay couples about it, and I'm like, who is out here talking about this
Yeah.
for gay couples? And then I've also gotten questions in the comment section from lesbians, and I'm like, I do
Yeah.
not know how to answer this.
Mm.
And I've been looking for resources for people in same-sex relationships because they're asking.
How would lesbians be feminine with each other? That's an interesting thing.
Well, from my understanding, I had a lot of lesbian friends in
Yeah.
Miami at one
Hmm.
point, and a lot of gay friends as well. And from my understanding, one would usually be holding more
Hmm.
of the masculine pole,
Yeah.
one would usually be holding more of the feminine
Yeah.
pole. But of course, I'm not in the inner workings of their relationship to know like what's going on at home. It was just what I would notice,
Yeah.
while we were out,
Yeah.
you
I'm
know.
gonna do, I'm gonna do more research on this and I'm gonna have a definitive answer for you.
Okay, yeah,
I will.
because they've been asking in the comment section. I'm like,
Yeah.
who is out here talking about this stuff? Maybe it's gonna be you and Merrick.
Yeah, maybe.
There seems to be some demand.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun to talk to you. Please don't let this be the last time.
Of course not.
No,
Absolutely not. You're gonna come
no.
on. Maybe we'll do collaborations with my husband. He loves your stuff because
Good.
he grew up in a household where there was a lot of addiction. So he has a lot of
Yeah.
respect for what you're saying. He's like, that guy's awesome. And like the way that he's talking about it. And if anybody here is struggling, man or woman, with addiction, please,
Mm,
please go to Patrick's channel. He's got amazing things that can help in that regard. We have family members who struggle with that, and your
hmm.
content's been very helpful in
Good.
helping us navigate
Yeah.
that
It's
twisty, turny world.
being if y'all think sober is boring, honey, it ain't. It is fun. I love it.
I
But
like
thank you.
being I
I
like
love
being clear
Yeah,
personally.
me too. Me
So
too. I don't like being altered anymore.
yeah, but if somebody is struggling with that, please, please, please reach out
Yes.
to Patrick and his husband. They can get you pointed in the right direction and they can help you with all of that. And, if you just want to learn about kind of like what's going on in the world in general from a spiritual perspective, I also highly recommend checking out Patrick, because what I like about you is the fact that, I don't know, you just talk about it in such a logical, common sense kind of way where I'm just like, thank you. Thank you for
It,
simplifying this.
a masculine way.
Yes, just
Yeah.
simple and to the point and very practical and very logical and easy
Yes.
to understand. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing some of that on this channel today. It's definitely
Um,
not going to be the last time.
well, awesome. Thank you.